Ryan Preece was fined $50,000 and lost 25 driver points after a crash at Texas Motor Speedway. In that same race, Kyle Busch did something that looked just as bad and walked away without a single penalty. NASCAR explained their decision. Most people didn't buy it, and now the sport has a problem it can no longer ignore. Sunday's worth, $400 on May 3rd at Texas. Motor Speedway was supposed to be just another race on the 2026 Cup Series calendar. By the time it ended, 2 drivers had put 2 other drivers into the wall in separate incidents, and the sport was heading into a week of serious debate. Not about the racing, about the rulebook, about whether NASCAR holds every driver to the same standard. On one side, you have Ryan Preece in the number 60 RFK Racing Ford. On the other, Kyle Busch in the number 8 for Richard Childress Racing. Same race, same track, 2 crashes that left 2 other drivers in the wall. 2 very different outcomes. That is where the problem starts. Let's go back to lap 101. Preece and Ty Gibbs were racing hard into turn 3. Gibbs was nearly clear. Preece held his line, made contact with the back bumper of Gibbs' number 54 Toyota, and sent him spinning into the safer barrier. Gibbs was done for the day. He ended up 36th. Preece kept going and finished 14th. That was the moment. What made it a penalty was what happened before it. Earlier in the race, during a caution period, Preece got on the radio with his team. He was frustrated with Gibbs after an earlier on-track exchange. He told them plainly, "All right, when I get to that 54, I'm done with him." After the crash, that same Preece told his crew he never touched Gibbs's car. But the radio call from earlier was already out there. You cannot unsay something that NASCAR already heard. Officials pulled the race footage, the in-car audio, and the SMT telemetry data. SMT stands for Sport Media Technology. It tracks every input a car makes on track in real time. When NASCAR ran all 3 pieces together, the radio call matched the action on the track. They ruled the contact intentional. 2 days after the race, the penalty was announced. A $50,000 fine and 25 driver points removed from the standings. NASCAR cited sections 4.3 and 4.4a of the rulebook, which cover member conduct. One of the listed offenses is wrecking or spinning another vehicle, whether or not that vehicle is taken out of competition as a result. Preece fit the description on both counts. The points loss hit hard. He dropped from 12th to 13th in the standings. His buffer above the chase cut line fell from 63 points down to 38. That is not a margin you feel comfortable with when the season still has a long road ahead. Preece went on Sirius XM NASCAR radio and did not run from the topic. He explained the history between him and Gibbs. He said the JGR driver had never given him the same racing room that he gave other cars on track, and that frustration had been building for a while. He admitted he had a short fuse with Gibbs and admitted he could have backed off in that moment. Could I cut him a break? Probably could have, but I didn't. Those words did not help him. You do not win an appeal by confirming the thing you were penalized for. Now, let's talk about Kyle Busch. With 2 laps remaining, Busch and John Hunter Nemechek were racing for position around 12th place. On the backstretch, the 2 made contact. Busch's car hit the wall and took damage. 1 lap later, they came back together in turn 3. Busch moved hard to the right, put his car into Nemechek, and sent him straight into the outside wall. Nemechek finished 21st. Busch finished 20th. Neither driver walked away clean, and neither driver was happy. Nemechek did not wait long to say something. He went straight to social media after the race. "Not freaking clear. Great day going and just got wrecked. What an ass." That was the tone across the garage. Drivers and fans expected NASCAR to step in. What they got instead was an explanation for why they were not going to. NASCAR VP of Race Communications Mike Ford went on the Hauler Talk podcast and broke it down. He said the SMT data was the key factor in the Busch decision. After the backstretch contact, Busch's steering data showed him turning the wheel hard left just to drive in a straight line. That told officials his car already had real damage. When a car cannot be steered normally, you cannot prove the driver chose to make contact. NASCAR called the whole thing inconclusive. On top of that, Busch never said a single word on the radio about what he planned to do to Nemechek. That silence made a difference. Ford put the comparison plainly. With Preece, there was audio. a clear threat followed by the crash. With Busch, there was no threat, no smoking gun in the steering data, and a car that already had a mechanical reason to behave unpredictably. Two different situations. Two different calls. But Dale Earnhardt Jr. did not see it that way. Earnhardt Jr. came out publicly and said he did not agree with penalizing Preece if Busch was walking free. I honestly don't agree with this one. If you're not going to penalize Kyle, which I didn't think they would, I don't think you can penalize Preece. He also made the point that even with the radio call working against Preece, the in-car footage showed Gibbs coming back down across his nose in that moment. That is a gray area. And gray areas are exactly where NASCAR's consistency problem hides. Denny Hamlin brought up his own history on his podcast. In March 2023 at Phoenix, NASCAR fined him $50,000 and docked him 25 points for wrecking Ross Chastain. The reason he got hit with that penalty was not only what happened on track, it was because he talked about it on his podcast the next day and admitted the intent. That admission locked it in. Hamlin looked at the Busch situation and could not give NASCAR a clean answer. He suggested that Busch's response, not fully denying it but not fully owning it either, told its own story. But without a direct admission, NASCAR had nothing concrete to attach a penalty to. And that is the real problem here. NASCAR's rulebook covers intentional wrecking. The punishment is serious: points, fines, and in bad cases, full race suspensions. Bubba Wallace and Chase Elliott were both suspended in 2022 and 2023 for retaliatory moves at 1.5-mile tracks. Austin Cindric was fined $50,000 and docked 50 points at COTA in 2025 for hooking Ty Dillon. The penalties are real. The precedent is there. But what Texas showed is that the trigger for those penalties has a flaw built into it. Say it on the radio and you are done. Stay quiet, keep your car damaged enough to create any doubt, and you might walk away clean. That is not a consistent standard. That is a system where the smart move is to say nothing. Ford acknowledged it himself on the podcast. He said NASCAR gets criticized for being consistently inconsistent. That is a rare thing to hear from someone in the sport's own leadership. It is also a sign that people inside NASCAR know this is a genuine problem, not just fan noise after a rough weekend. NASCAR has now put Busch on notice. Ford said Texas was the second recent case where Busch received the benefit of the doubt. There was a similar situation with Riley Herbst at Bristol in April 2026, and no penalty came from that one either. Cup Series Managing Director Brad Moran is set to meet with Busch and RCR leadership this week. The message was direct. A third incident will not be treated the same way. That warning matters, but it also raises another question. If NASCAR already sees a pattern, why does the line only move after the second one? That is what frustrates fans.